Hello, pleasure to meet everybody today. My name is Jared Beaudry. You guys know me as your athletic director at the local high school. I want to start by thanking you all for taking your time out to meet with me. I know we all have extremely busy schedules, don't always get a chance to follow up and meet, so I do greatly appreciate that. Hopefully, I won't eat up too much of your time today. I do have a couple things I'm going to go over with you, a short presentation we're going to go over, and then I will leave you in your good graces. So, without further ado, we'll dive right into things. Um, the first thing I want to start off by saying, you know, as athletic director, I'm a vivid sports fan, sports follower. I love what sports bring to youth. So I don't want you to think that anything in my presentation is me saying that the sports don't serve a purpose in our schools or anything of that nature. But at the same time, I do think there's a growing problem in the U.S. today, and I think that we could be integral cog in starting to correct that problem. Um, so I'm going to go over some things here while we're on video. You'll see it get a little smaller, but you'll still be able to see me. Um, and let's go ahead and get started. So I have this proposal that I've called the New Deal. Back when we were in a Great Depression, um, there was issues that FDR needed to address, and he called it the New Deal, which was an opportunity for the government to be able to build inner city buildings and housing and pay workers for that. That brought us out of the Great Depression. It was a genius New Deal. Um, I feel like to this day and age, we are in the same scenario in our education. Our education is actually in a depression. It has constantly over the past 30 to 40 years decreased. I mean, the U.S. was never really on top of education, anyways, but there was a time that we were the smartest and brightest minds of the future of the world, and now we're barely breaking the top 20 in education rankings. Our math and sciences aren't even in the top 20. So certainly there's an issue at hand that needs to be addressed. So my plan is called the New Deal. It's a recession-proof model for advanced education. Um, the problem, as I see it, and as a lot of research I've looked at sees it, over the past 100 years, the United States has constantly slipped into the education hole. Um, and I think a large part of that, and a lot of research will back up what I believe as well, is that when you compare what the U.S. school systems do compared to what the school systems in most of countries elsewhere in the world do, you see a huge difference in the focus on sports. Um, a lot of extracurriculars are formed around sports and less around academics. Um, so again, I'm just going to flip through some slides, but I'm also going to show you some of the research I've done to back that up. Change that a little bit so we can see it a little better. Um, Currently like I just had mentioned, we're not even in the top 20 in science and math, and we're barely in the top 20 in overall education on a world view. So certainly this day and age with advanced technologies constantly evolving, we want to make sure our country, our states, our cities are always going to be in that circle among the most advanced. We don't want to fall behind the rest of the world by any means. Um, as I mentioned before, what I think and what a lot of people think is that a big part of what we do differently here in the U.S. is our focus in schools that revolve around sports. I know my experience in high school and even at the collegiate level was sports. And as an athlete, I was treated a little differently. I was a little more popular. Um, we had our clique of friends that revolved around all the other athletes. A lot of homework assignments we were let out of, test grades we were, a little more lenient on, book reports, things of that nature. And at the time, I loved it, but looking back now, it didn't help me by any means. So, um, what are we doing different? The sports. That's my belief. Um, I believe that a large part of why we do this is because in our collegiate levels and our professional levels of sports are billion-dollar industries, which create a lot of jobs and don't get me wrong, do a lot of good for our country. But I also don't think it's necessary for that to start in our elementary, middle, and high school systems. I firmly believe that if you didn't offer sports in schools free of charge to all the students, even though there's certainly a cost to the school, that sport would still go on. Um, I know we're here in Riverview now, but I grew up in Wyandotte, where we have the recreational teams, and the recreational teams are huge right up until you hit middle school, and then nobody plays because why pay for the recreational team to play on when you can play for the school for free? But I firmly believe if we didn't have sports offered like that by our schools, that the recreation departments would still offer those sports, so our athletes would still gradually advance. They'd still go on to the collegiate level, and they'd still go on to professional level. I think a large part of those levels are based more on size, agility, and ability. So the same people that were gonna go to those levels are still gonna go to those levels. Not gonna miss anything there. But I also think that firmly believe that the athletes that are playing recreational sports are still going to get a better education at the high school levels and the collegiate levels, which you'll see later on in the presentation is another issue that I foresee. So revenue, high school spends thousands of, sometimes hundreds of thousands every year um, on their sports systems. So I'm going to show you a little article here that I kind of found, if I can find it. We looked this article up here. This is high school football has high expenses and low revenue. The Tribune reporter John Kilman shows and this is in the, most of it talks about the greater Chicago area. We see that some schools spend, and I understand that every school has a different budget. You see some of them are as high as 133,000 a year on football program to 70,000, some of them down as low as 11,000. But the reality is, even if you are one of the top football teams in your state, you're probably not bringing in 133,000 in positive revenue after all your operational costs, maintenance costs are divided out. So even though some schools probably, most schools probably break even, a lot of schools are actually paying money out of their budgets to put on these sports. And the bigger picture for me is, in a recession like we're coming out of now, we don't have the budgets to be able to do that. So back to kind of what I was saying. Again, I don't want to hold too much of your time up. Bringing, the New Deal is an opportunity to bring back our education up to a higher platform than what it once was on. I would love to see Riverview School District be the cog and model the way, so to speak, into this downriver plan that I had in mind. Um, and the reality is, if Riverview was to cut sports, we would see a change in the education with all our students in Riverview. Um, I understand that because I went to it. The vocational programs linked through all the other schools in downriver where students travel school to school. So everyone's going to see how much better our education is becoming in Riverview. And we'll be able to speak with some of the other departments and some of the other presidents from their, um, uh, you know, directors and really get an idea if they're on board with doing what we're doing, in which case you would see a recreation league form in Downriver. Now, when we look at 5, 10, 15 years down the road, now we're producing higher education at the high school and even the middle school levels, which is then producing more college students in the Downriver area. We're now molding Downriver into a more sophisticated and a more educated area to be in, but not losing our sports as they evolve through the city recreation departments. In addition to that, we're saving money on what we're costing out to use to do the sports, so we can then turn that money in our back into our educational facilities and libraries. We can start research at the high school level, so prepare people for college. We can go into um, you know, larger auditoriums and things of that nature. So it's certainly something that's going to improve, drastically improve our education and higher education at the lower levels, which will better prepare people for college. Um, and here we go with the what I believe will happen. Um, and I know you're thinking to yourself, well, why would me, the athletic director, want to do away with sports in Riverview? Well, because it's not about me. It's about the future. It's about our youth, and it's about education. And isn't President Fraser? Isn't that why you wanted to be the president of the school board? Vice President O'Brien. Isn't that what your goals are, to look out for the future education of our youth? We're not in it for sports. We're in it for education. That's what it's all about, growing and developing. So I think that this will be huge. And what I ask of you, and we can go back and I can show you some more research, some more of the websites. But again, I didn't want to take up too much of your time, so I'm going to wrap things up. But what I ask of you is allow me the opportunity to pitch you some numbers. Allow me the opportunity to bring to you some hard facts that will show the difference maker in this new deal. And don't just dismiss it right away. Allow me to show you that it'll be better for the city of Riverview. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing back from you.